This is Ken Kraetzer for CBSI and our CBSI Talking Business interview series. We talk to leaders in digital marketing, banking, insurance, customer service, and business education. And at CBSI, we provide insurance-based benefits to the credit card and payments industry. We're in Harrison, New York, and we are celebrating our 50th anniversary this year. And we are very pleased to talk to a friend, Robert Fisher, who is the president and CEO of Tioga State Bank up in Spencer, New York, and is the immediate past national chairman of the ICBA, the Independent Community Bankers Association of America, veteran of the United States Air Force, and an ROTC graduate. Bob, good to see you today. Thanks for taking time.
Great to see you too, Ken. I'm excited to have this chat with you today.
So are we. And how is it back being home, being able to be in your office on a regular basis after spending a year leading a national organization, going all over the country, and very importantly, representing the organization in Washington on Capitol Hill?
Well, it's great to be back home. I love spending time at home and here in upstate New York. It's a beautiful area. This is a beautiful time of year to be here, although it was snowing on Sunday, so I'm anxious for spring to actually get here. Just great to be back, but it's a little bittersweet too, because I love being on the road. I love getting to see community bankers from across this great country. So.
Very good. Now, you just got back, well, about a month ago from chairing a live in-person ICBA National Convention in San Antonio, a culmination of your year-long tour as national chairman. What were some of the highlights and key messages and that you discussed with your members?
You know, it's 2021 was it was a fantastic year. I was able to, as you said, get back on the road and travel. I traveled to quite a few states this last year: Maine, Idaho, Minnesota, Indiana, Missouri, Texas, Virginia, Colorado, Arizona, Oregon, and California. So hit a lot of different states, doing state conventions, being with community bankers. And I think it was kind of the message this year was kind of getting back to normal. I think everybody was really, after the pandemic, you know, although I guess we're still in the pandemic officially, but after the pandemic, people were really just happy to be back together in person. Every convention I did that was in person, you know, people, it was almost like an old home days of everybody who had not seen each other in maybe 18 to 20 months, and just being just gracious to be back in person, you know, and being, you know, together in person was just phenomenal.
Very good. And you introduced a new national chairman, Brad Bolton from Community Spirit Bank in Alabama. He's got, he's going to have to fill big shoes from your leadership.
Oh, Brad is certainly a great community banker. He is passionate for our industry, and he is going to do a tremendous job leading our association as we go forward. So I know I've left the association in great hands.
Absolutely. Now, one of the things I want to skip forward to talking about how community banks came through the pandemic and the successes that you had in serving your customers and community, and really the impact of the Paycheck Protection Program, $350 billion that was very effectively provided through the banking industry, and so many community banks were able to help their customers. What's your thought on the impact of the Paycheck Protection Program?
You know, I look at what community banks did for small business in this country, and it was tremendous. Community banks did 60% of the total PPP lending. And, you know, when you think about 60% of the total PPP lending in the country, 72% of the lending to minority-owned businesses, and yet we represent only about 25% of the banking assets in this country. So community banks did an amazing job. I've seen numbers that we saved north of 20 million jobs in this country. So I'm really proud as a community banker of what we did. I know, like my bank, we knew we were all in on PPP before I even knew what the details of the program were. We knew we had to help provide a lifeline for the businesses, small businesses throughout our communities that we serve. So, we stepped up and we got it done. We worked nights, weekends, and made sure that our businesses got those PPP loans. And it's been just a tremendous thing that community banks did across the country. I know we weren't the only shop that did that. All my banking friends from around the country did exactly the same thing to help out their communities and their customers.
Very good, very good. Now, one of your roles, as I mentioned, is going to Washington and being a presence on Capitol Hill, testifying to various banking committees. What were some of the messages and topics that you talked to congressional leaders?
Well, obviously, as you probably know, going to Capitol Hill is a little different these days. In fact, I don't think I've been on the Hill probably in 2 years since COVID broke out. So most of the legislative lobbying work that we do is via Zoom calls, phone calls, and things like that. But the message is, we faced a number of different issues like the IRS data collection. I was on numerous calls with the IRS and Treasury. They were trying to sell us on the idea of their need to collect all that data on customer transactions so that they could collect more tax revenue. And we were trying to say why it was a bad idea. And I don't think either side really convinced each other that their point was right. But obviously, I think our work, our advocacy work, we engaged community bankers from around the country on the idea. We engaged our customers, and we generated hundreds of thousands of letters to Congress reaching out on the idea of why protection of people's personal financial privacy is so important and why it shouldn't just be granted access to the IRS to be able to look at everybody's transactions. And we were successful in advocating, and Congress kind of has pulled that off of the table at this point. It's a huge revenue add, so I'm not sure it's completely dead, but it's dead for the time being. So.
Absolutely, and you worked on legislation, I believe this is before Congress now, the ILC Loophole Act for industrial loan companies and new players, data companies that want to get into banking and lending. What were your thoughts on that? I know there were some limits that your organization wanted to see.
Well, I know that ILCs have been kind of a backdoor for different companies to get into the banking space. Back probably 15, 20 years ago, Walmart was actually trying to get in the banking space through an ILC loophole. And other companies have entered the space via that channel. So ICBA has been kind of working to close that loophole to prevent some of the big data firms from getting into banking, such as, Apple, Google, some companies that have access to a huge amount of data that could be used to, obviously have a very large competitive advantage over other financial institutions. So we just feel it's never been a good thing in this country when commerce and banking are combined. We've always had a proud history of separating banking and commerce, and we think it's important to continue that separation as we go forward.
Very good, and we've been involved with supporting the U.S. Postal Service for many years from our direct marketing, credit card mailing app days, and Postal Service just got an agreement with Congress, and they're so vital for delivering bank statements and notifications. But they've also proposed offering some bank services. What's your thought on the Postal Service?
Not a fan of the post office providing banking services. I think they do a great job of delivering the mail, which is kind of right in their wheelhouse, but let's keep them focused on what they do well. I'm not sure if you're aware, the Postal Office ran a pilot program. They launched it last September to offer postal banking services, and I think it was 4 different locations: Washington, D.C., Falls Church, Virginia, Baltimore, Maryland, and I think in the Bronx. So 4 locations. Between September and January, I think they serviced 6 customers at all those locations and made revenue of, I think it was just shy of $36. So I don't think they're trying to fix a problem that isn't a problem. Community banking and commercial banking offices there's actually a 3-to-1 ratio of bank offices to postal facilities. So we have a banking system in place. Let's utilize the system we have to provide banking services, not try to engage the post office in a service that's outside of their wheelhouse.
Sure, sure. Another related topic that the ICBA has been working on is serving unbanked customers. You have the Get Banked campaign, trying to reach out to those urban America, rural America that may not have access to a bank or have a bank account. What's your thought on trying to reach more of the unbanked consumers in the country?
I think it's something we're all trying to do. I think, you look at outreach that community banks do, we're all trying to find ways to serve those unbanked customers and trying to find more ways to be inclusive and bring people into the banking system, because we all know that's a good thing, the more people we have in the system. I know I look at a lot of programs that we do to help increase financial literacy, because I think financial literacy is really lacking in this country. So a lot of banks, including our own, do a lot of different financial literacy advocacy. We work with a lot of our local schools to provide education to schools. We actually partnered with a Fintech firm that has a financial literacy app that kind of provides a gamified approach to financial literacy, targeting probably kids 15 to 20 years old that may be trying to increase their financial literacy. It was actually the guys that founded it were in college and found that they really lacked a lot of basic financial literacy. So they decided to solve a problem and created this app. And then, we partner with some different not-for-profits that we offer some first-time home buyer seminars and things like that. So we do a lot to try and provide financial literacy, but we also provide a lot of services that are low cost. We have, loan and deposit products targeted to those that maybe don't have the financial wherewithal that everybody else does, some very low cost fees and low cost programs to help bring people into the system. And I know there's community banks across the country that are trying to do similar things. There's ICBA also offers a directory of banks that can open accounts remotely with starting balances of less than $25 or $25 or less. So I think it's positive for all of us to try and continue to focus on bringing those unbanked people into the system. But I think financial literacy is truly a key to help bridge that gap.
Absolutely, that's so important, financial literacy. Hey, you're pretty comfortable with technology, learning technology, as I think all of us are. There's been so much application of technology in our careers, and now we're in the era of mobile banking. And certainly a challenge for community banks to keep up with the larger competitors. You've been mentioning quite a bit the importance of fintechs and also processing companies that allow you to provide top-level services to your customers. What are some of the priorities there in adapting technology?
I think it's so critical for community banks to look to partner with fintechs and also partner with our core processors, because let's face it, we're not bleeding edge technology at Tioga State Bank, but we definitely try and be leading edge. We've had internet banking since 1997, I think, is when we launched our internet banking product. And we've always been trying to be towards the front, but I don't have the R&D budget that Chase has or some of these other mega banks, but I can partner with a lot of different innovative solutions that provide, take me to the same level. I've got the same product, services, and layout that Chase has, just a little different. So I think partnering with fintechs, working with our core providers to provide some of this, I think really does level the playing field for community banks and gives us the same product set that the large banks have, and we can do pretty much everything they can do. So, but I think you've got to be willing to partner and look to engage and get together with some different companies, because obviously we don't have the staff to do everything internally ourselves.
Sure. Hey, you introduced us to a terrific program from the ICBA ThinkTech Accelerator, the folks at Little Rock, Arkansas at the Venture Center. Wayne Miller, we did a great talk with. We watched last year's cohort of about a dozen fintechs that are mentored by bankers, members of the ICBA. They have another cohort finishing up next week or two. Why has that been such an important asset, the ThinkTech Accelerator program?
It's just, as I said, you know, we've got to be willing to partner with some of these companies that are solving real world pain points for community banks. And that's the beauty of ICBA's ThinkTech Accelerator, is it's vetted by community bankers. I've been on the selection committee for the last 3 years and helping to choose some of the companies that are going to participate. So we get firsthand input into saying, you know, what are these companies solving for? What are they, you know, what are they providing for community banks? Is it a revenue source? Is it cost reduction? Is it a better customer experience? So it's all, you know, something may not be relevant to me, but I try and look at it on the broad array of what's going to help community banks across this country. And so I think that's the whole beauty, is we work with these companies during the 12 weeks that this program rolls, and we get to provide input and feedback to them on pricing. You know, some of the companies have pivoted in the middle of the Venture Center program, the ThinkTech Center, the Accelerator program. So it's truly, you know, bankers and fintechs working together to solve problems and create great solutions that are at a price point that community bankers like myself can afford. So
important. And a related topic, I do veterans and military reporting, as well as business, and cybersecurity has been a key topic. We've been able to watch some of the exercises up at West Point they do annually, and certainly for bankers, cyber is a concern, and really across all industries. The ICBA has taken a strong lead on this. How are you working with your members on cybersecurity training, identification, mitigating, and just responding to incidents that may come up?
Well, I know at firsthand as a community banker, I know cybersecurity and fraud are really what keeps bankers up at night. That's probably the biggest fear I have is a cyber breach at our bank. And I know ICBA continues to actively monitor developments in this arena and has actually formed a sector-wide working group working with over 40 governmental representatives, from regulators to law enforcement, and other agencies, to really come together and share knowledge and also share resources to kind of stay abreast and stay on top of what's happening. You know, one example of this was during the wave of unemployment fraud. I don't know if you remember that. I actually had somebody file unemployment claim for me, which went to my old home address, and the lady who purchased my last house, she actually sent me, I had a key bank loaded debit card that I could have probably gone out and cashed in some money. But during that wave of unemployment fraud during the pandemic, ICBA was able to request resources and share information to develop some guidelines that really helped to counter some of this fraud that was happening at the time. So, you know, cyber and data security is just so important for all of our community banks, and ICBA has a committee that's focused purely on cyber and data security that meets, I think they meet on a monthly basis. I used to serve on that committee, but they, you know, talk about the current trends and threats. The current chairman of that committee actually went out and got certified in a cybersecurity certification for that role. But just, you know, ICBA also offers quite a bit of classes and training materials through Community Banker University, which helps all of our community banks stay current on some of the trends and things that are happening in cybersecurity. But one of the companies in last year's cohort, you may have seen them when you watched some of the ThinkTech Accelerator last year. They actually provide cybersecurity training that banks can deploy to their entire staff. And we've actually partnered with that firm and seen just a tremendous increase in just cybersecurity awareness from our staffing level, as far as they all understand that they are part of the solution to preventing cybersecurity fraud. So
Absolutely. You mentioned the ICBA Community Banker University, and maybe you could describe that, and also the steps that someone interested in a career in community banking might take a program like that, and also perhaps a veteran who is interested in joining the banking field after their service in the military, how they may approach that, and maybe the Community Banker University is an avenue for that.
Yeah, I think, Community Banker University, I would have to refer back to ICBA, how somebody who was not a community banker already would get access to it, but they offer great training. In fact, we use a lot of their training for our new employees to get a better understanding of community banking and banking in general, how the whole financial services works. So the Community Banker University just has some great training materials. They do training in person, webinars, on-demand things. It's just a great resource for community bankers to further their knowledge of banking. But as far as a veteran or somebody new looking to get into community banking, I mean, now is the time. We are all, and this is a trend I heard when I traveled throughout the nation, everybody is trying to find good employees. So I think if you are open, if you're a people person, you like developing relationships, that is, key to the community banking business model is we are relationship lenders. We try and develop relationships with all of our customers, both on the deposit and loan side. And so if you like building relationships, you like that kind of personal face-to-face business, my door is always open. Somebody can give me a call, send me an email. I'm always willing to talk to somebody about how they get into community banking. But I think today there are so many opportunities for people to come into community banks across the country right now. We're all searching for great people. So.
Absolutely. And one of the things I noticed, I was listening to some of your talks, is you like the term high tech, high touch, which I like to recommend. I read it first when I think in high school, and I read Alvin Toffler's book, Future Shock, where he talks about that as you apply technology to providing solutions, you've got to keep the relationship, you got to be personal, you got to be friendly. And you mentioned that as one of your themes. Tell us a little bit about that.
I just think, our whole business model is based on those relationships. We're never going to be the low-cost provider that, Walmart portrays that they want to be the low-cost provider. Community banks, we just don't operate under that same business model. Expense-wise and things like that, we can't be the low-cost provider, but we provide a lot of value. We provide relationship banking. So if somebody does have an issue with their banking services or something, we provide that value add. So somebody can pick up the phone, they can talk to me in person. When you call our bank, you're going to get a person that you talk to. So, but I think it's important also that we have to have those other channels that people want to bank with us, can interact with us via their phone, via their iPad, via their computer. So you've got to provide that digital experience as well as providing that high touch experience of being there when somebody has an issue and wants to talk to a person. Because I think, most of us, or at least people, I'm Gen X, I think most of us, when we have an issue, we want to be able to at least talk to a person if we have a problem versus trying to work through it with a AI bot that doesn't understand words that I'm typing into the computer. I mean, that gets very frustrating versus being able to talk to somebody about the issue.
Yeah, so important to be able to reach someone on audio, on the phone to handle an important question or problem that comes up. Hey, just Robert Fisher, President and CEO of Tioga State Bank, based up in Spencer, New York. Perhaps a final thought, remembrance, highlight from your year of service as the national chairman of the organization, the Independent Community Bankers Association.
I encourage everyone to bank with a community bank. We are, as we said, high tech and high touch as well. Relationship lenders, if you have an issue, you can always talk to the CEO of a community bank. We're right there for you. If you want to find your nearest local community bank, banklocally.org is the direct connection to, you can put in where you live and you'll get a list of different community banks that you can partner with. So we're here for you. We're here for small business and just trying to help our communities grow and be better places to live.
Very good. Robert Fisher, the President and CEO of Tioga State Bank based in Spencer, New York, and the immediate past National Chairman of the ICBA, the Independent Community Bankers of America. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing a little bit about your year, the people you met around the country, and the importance of community banks to the American economy and so many communities around the country. Thanks for joining us today.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Ken, and letting me talk with you soon.
Our pleasure. I hope we can do it in person. Look forward to visiting Spencer, New York, maybe over the summer. That'd be a treat.
That'd be great.
Hey, thank you. And again, this is Ken Kraetzer for CBSI and CBSI Talking Business. We're based in Harrison, New York. We provide insurance-based benefits to the credit card and payments industry, and we are celebrating our 50th anniversary year this year. So thank you for watching.